Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. I'm so happy to have our college advisor, Cathy Falkenberg, again. And this time, we're going to focus on juniors. So, hi, Cathy. Thank you so
Hi,
much for joining us.
thank you for having me again. I'm really excited about this.
For those of people who haven't seen our last week's session, would you mind just taking a few moments to introduce yourself to our group?
Of course, yes, thank you. So my name is Cathy Falkenberg, and I am the founder of a consulting firm called Fit for Higher Ed. Fit being the operative word. I talk a lot about fit for college. Um, I absolutely love the work I do with the students, and and I love talking about college too. That's one of the reasons why I'm excited about today. And yeah, we could, if you'd like to learn a little bit more about me, my website is www.fitforhighered.com. And I'm here for any questions that any of your viewers may have.
Thank you. I just want to start out talking about just a mindset once again because I really
Mhm.
appreciated your message last week. And for families and students, junior year is probably one of the most stressful time they're going to go through
Yes.
during their childhood. So, if you can reiterate your message once again and just some tips for the families and the
Uh,
parents and the students before we go into
yeah.
your presentation, I think that'll be really nice.
Yes, absolutely. So the mindset, there's so many fabulous colleges and universities in the country and even around the world. So to have the first of all, the mindset from both the student and the family that this process should be fun, and it can be fun. It's for the students, sort of their first time to really do something that's bridging into their adult life. So the mindset being that the student should take the driver's seat, and then the families should certainly be supportive through it, but that it is the student's um, sort of responsibility. Of course, as a family, you have to make a decision what's a right fit, not just academically, but financially and socially. So lots of good conversation, but try to remove the anxiety as much as possible. And what I mean by that is not having the mindset that only one particular college will do, or maybe that only the top 10 schools will really be satisfactory for the student. Um, Keep your options open. There's so many wonderful options. So, and the other mindset as well too is for the student and the family to understand it's their individual journey. Meaning that if sort of get caught up in the frenzy and the talking about which colleges the student is applying to during social ventures or on the soccer field or some of that, it just it can add another level of anxiety as well. So kind of keep it to your family and your school counselor and an independent counselor if the family is working with somebody like me, and and then once the decision's made in May and the student's ready to go somewhere, then announce it and be all excited about that.
Sounds good.
Yeah,
Sounds good.
yeah, yeah.
All right. So, Kathy, would you like to do your presentation? And then
Yeah,
I
yeah.
I want to remind the people who are watching it now that if you have any questions, please put it into comment section, and we're gonna try our best to ask Kathy those questions and get the answers. And
Okay,
if you're
great.
watching this later and you have questions, please put them in the comments because I've noticed that Kathy's been answering those questions, so I really appreciate that. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So let's quick before you go into the onto the presentation. Let's kind of just review a little bit about the recent trends that really have been as a result of the COVID pandemic and how it's affected college application process. We have colleges that are experiencing a just a tremendous increase in applications that are being submitted. And it really is, students are finding that they need to apply to many more schools. And that certainly is a wise move. I do recommend that the families with whom I work, that their students apply to about 14 to 15 schools versus what used to be more like 9 or 10. The other trend has also been the test optional policy for most schools. So we'll talk about that in a little bit more depth as well too. But those are really the two big changes. And the third big change is that a lot of colleges are not able to have students or prospective students come in and visit their schools. So families are having to make decisions based on virtual tours or not the formal visits to universities. Colleges have done a great job at offering virtual sessions and virtual tours and opportunity to speak with students and professors, but it's still not the same as actually being there and getting the feel for it. That will hopefully alleviate itself when the pandemic is over. But the other two, as far as more applications going in and the test optional, I have a feeling those will stay with us for a bit. So if we can go to that first slide, Amy, that'd be great. So yes, we'll talk today about what does it mean for a best fit college, what letters of recommendation are. Oh, okay, so here are the trends. Virtual tours and character. Character matters more than ever. We'll talk about that as well too, especially when we are talking about the letters of recommendation. So, all right, let's go to that slide with, keep going.
Sorry. I think we started
no
from
problem.
the beginning.
Yes, okay.
This one?
Yes, perfect. Okay, best fit. What does that mean? And a best fit, a student really needs to look at not just what they know about the school and the name of the school, but also really get into the details as to, is it an academic fit? Is the major or the area of study that the student is considering, how strong is that particular department at that college, university? Some students, it would be unfortunate for a student to be admitted to a school that they're really kind of excited to go into, and then find out that the major that they were hoping to go into isn't really what's best for them, or in a department that perhaps is being phased out by the university, or a department that just doesn't have as robust teaching as the family was. So it's important to really look into all of that ahead of time as you are building your college list. What is the academic fit? And then also financial fit. College is expensive, and it just seems like the tuition and college costs keep going up all the time. So that needs to be factored into the decision. Is it a university or college that offers merit scholarships? Or are they the kind of university that meets all of the financial need of the students and the family? Or also, is it a place I can say, we are committed to having students be able to attend without having to take out loans or personal loans? So all of that is usually, if you attend one of the virtual sessions, it will tell you about it, but they will also have lots of details on the website as far as what their financial aid policy is. And then thirdly, is it a social fit? I would say, just because if a student is kind of shy and reserved, they may think, oh, I don't want to go to a really large university where there's lots of people, but look into whether they are clubs or activities where a student can really start getting to know a smaller group of people and then grow into it. Part of college is that not just the academic, but it's that personal growth too, of having the independence and the challenges that will help the student grow into an adult. So, but the social fit is important as well. So, and when building your list, it's really super important. Not only are you applying to more schools, but you need to then also have a good balance of target schools and then more selective schools. And what I mean specifically by target school would be, is the student's GPA and rigor of high school courses in line with what the average for admitted students is at that particular school. And if there are standardized testing scores available, if the student has chosen to take the SAT or ACT, the school will also publish what the average of the admitted students is. So you really need to know, okay, is the student's academic record falling right within that parameter? And then more highly select schools, or some people call them reach schools, would be where, the student can also be highly qualified, but they will also be applying with a lot of other highly qualified students for that particular school. And the number of slots is usually a little bit smaller. So, okay, so let's talk about letters of recommendation. And this is something, especially in the virtual world, right? It's so hard for a student to be able to create really deep relationships with a teacher online. But if you're able to do that as much as possible, if you didn't already know the teachers from prior to the virtual world, I mean, it's good that lots of schools are going back in person again. So, but the trick with letters of recommendation is you definitely, for juniors, by the time that your semester ends, now your spring semester, make sure that you have asked at least teachers for strong letters of recommendation. Your school may have a specific protocol to go through it. They may have a form that you have to complete, or so definitely, if that's the case, make sure that you are doing what your school counselor is asking you to do to ask for the letters of recommendation. But it's best to do it now before the junior year ends, so you get a verbal commitment from teachers. At some point, there's only so many letters of rec that they'll be able to write. So do that now. And make it easy for them to write your really strong letter. And what I mean by that is you can send them an email with some very specifics about your performance in that class. So sort of just to remind them of what your performance was, and with some details. Because they do end up having to write a lot of letters, and you want those to be as specific as possible. So, okay, next slide. Oh, on the letters of rec, there are some colleges that are taking more than 2 letters of recommendation. So the way to find out, you can either go to the college website directly, or if you start building your common application list, you'll be able to see in the profile how many letters of recommendation a college is willing to accept. I would say don't go overboard. Even if a college says they'll take up to 6 letters, you just need to send 1 or 2 extra at the most, because it's better that way. The college admissions reps usually don't have a real ton of time to review letters. So, okay. Tests. Yes, if you are a strong test taker and you can prepare for the SAT or the ACT, by all means, try to take it. The reality is that, especially last year, there were a lot of test dates that were canceled, especially on the West Coast. But look ahead. You can look at the College Board website or the ACT student.org website, and you'll be able to see what the dates are coming up. Preferably, if you can test the spring of your junior year or over the summer, so you're not having to worry about preparing for and taking those tests once your senior year begins. That's the ideal to do it beforehand. But if you need to do it in the fall of senior year, then just make sure that you plan ahead and you can register for those tests ahead of time. The essay portion of the SAT really is no longer needed. Well, that's gone away with the new test, but also a lot of colleges are not requiring the essay piece of the ACT. Okay, let's see. Demonstrated interest. All right, so this is something that's always been important in the college search, the demonstrated interest, because it's also a reflection of how carefully you have looked at the school as a match and as a fit for yourself. But also, now I think as a result of the pandemic as well, more schools want to get a clearer picture of how interested really is a student in attending there, or are they just putting in an application just to see if they get in. So demonstrated interest. One of the things that I recommend is start your college-only email address, whether it's Gmail or Yahoo or whatever else you use. But use it so that it's kind of either your full name or something that is a professional name. You don't want to use something that's either funny or it's still part of your image. What you use, that's your email address, because that's what the colleges will be using to communicate with you. But more importantly, it helps you just manage that deluge of emails you'll be getting. So do that if you haven't done that yet. Have a college-only email address. And then go into the websites for each of the schools that you are planning to apply to and get on their mailing lists. Yes, they'll start sending you lots of stuff, but colleges that take demonstrated interest into account are also keeping track of that, so that by the time that your really awesome, strong application comes in to their desk in the fall, they can also say, wow, okay, this student has engaged with us before before submitting their application. So another great way is that in your high school, they will have, especially in the fall coming up, if your school is back in person and the college can send reps to visit your school, make sure you keep track of who's coming and try to attend those sessions. And really, the admission reps really do want to meet all of the students and not only sort of market their schools, but really get to know the students that are interested in their school. So go to those, or if it's a virtual visit, make sure you register for it so that they can keep track of, yes, you have attended that. So that's kind of demonstrated interest. You can do it in lots of different ways. Of course, one of them would be to apply for early decision schools, but we'll talk about that later. The other way is, to really engage with the rep that would be reviewing your application first. It's a great way to go. Okay, next slide. Okay, this is my favorite part. And I'm in the process of doing this now with my students, is starting to write their essays, particularly their personal statement essay that will be part of the Common App. And I always say it's my favorite part, and the students kind of roll their eyes a little bit like, oh my God, I'm so stressed about this. But then focusing again that this can be a really fun process for them. And it starts with self-reflection. Before a student starts writing a draft of their essay, we talk for about 2 hours about things. What is important to them? How do they view the world, and what kind of what kind of contributions do they want to make? What are the things that they value the most? And we go through these exercises where they can kind of start brainstorming and writing things down instead of just saying, okay, what do you want to talk about in your essay? It's important to take the opportunity to really kind of like reveal the essence of you, what really makes you the kind of student and kind of person that you are. The good way to think about it is that an essay shouldn't just be a recollection of what their resume might look like or what their accomplishments. It really needs to be about why those accomplishments have been important to the student. It is also, of course, another way to demonstrate your writing ability, because in college you will be writing a bit. And another way to also be able to articulate what kind of community member you will be in college. So that's really the important piece of that personal statement. There will be a lot more writing as well in the supplemental essays, where colleges say, hey, well, tell us in 200 words why you want to attend to what, why you want to major in what you'd like to major and what you like to attend our school. Those are really important. Even though they're shorter pieces of writing, they need to be very specific to that school. So it takes a little bit of time. And then thirdly, for students that are applying to the University of California, rather than personal statements, they have 4 what are called PIQs, personal insight questions. They give you a choice of 8, and you choose 4 out of those 8, and then you write a 350-word essay that helps them get to know you really well as well. So super, super important that the student use their own voice in that writing. So the students with whom I work, like I said, we have a lot of conversations, and they do several edits of their essays. I can sort of make suggestions and talk about more things, but it has to be the student's work. And you actually, when you sign the common application, you there's, when you put it in your signature, it says, this is, I am affirming that this is my own work. So for that reason, having too many editors on the essay sometimes ends up diluting the voice of the student. But really, it's just my favorite part of the work that I do. And I think the students end up enjoying it by the time that we're done with our work together, and they can be really proud of their essays. So, okay, any questions that are coming through so far, Amy?
So far, no questions yet, but I want to remind the viewers that if you have any questions, you can put them in the comment section, and we'll ask Cathy those questions.
Okay, good. Okay, let's see. Something else about the essay too. When the student is finished, and in the editing process, I have my students read their essays out loud to themselves quite a bit, because it's really a great way for them to sort of solidify that, yes, this is my own voice. This is, only I could have written this story. So that's, it's an interesting process. Far as topics, a lot of students tell me, okay, what are the things that I shouldn't write about? Especially after the COVID pandemic, of course, a lot of students would like to write about how it has affected them. Though a lot of colleges, in particular the ones on the Common App, have included an additional prompt that says, tell us if COVID has affected you in a dramatic way. Tell us how it has affected you or your family. So that's an opportunity for the student to write, did a parent lose their job, or did someone get sick in the home, or sort of how, or was a student did school have to go fully virtual, and were there problems there? So those, it's an opportunity to talk about those challenges faced. So on the other hand, then the personal statement and the regular essay, you can sort of write it about you, even pre-pandemic, if that makes sense. So any okay, let's see. Let's go to the next slide. Oh, okay. So this is where you can reach me, and I am doing 3 workshops for high school juniors, April 17th and 18th, in May 29th and 30th, and then in June the 24th, 25th, and 26th. And I am limiting the number of students to 6 students, so it's really kind of personalized work, but you can go to my website and sign up for any of those. But let's see, Amy, let's go back to, or we're done with the slides. I just want to
Okay.
chat about a few other things.
Sounds good.
Okay.
I'm gonna come back here. Kathy, we have a question actually.
Huh?
It says, it's from Swati. It says, I missed part of your talk, so I might have missed, but would you please say a little about honors colleges within larger universities and how to evaluate those?
Oh, absolutely. Okay, great question. So a lot of the larger universities will have what they call honors colleges that will require either a specific application to it from the student, or they get invited to consider joining that honors college. They look a little different at each of the schools. So it's important to kind of go through, and again, evaluating the fit for the student. Some honors colleges will offer special housing, so where you will be at a dorm that is just for the honors students. That kind of will assume that you're kind of in with students that are a little bit more serious about their academics, or just students that want to get a little bit of a smaller school feel in a larger school. So it makes a really big state university feel like a smaller college. The other options or benefits of joining an honors college would be that oftentimes there are special classes offered only to the honors college students, maybe more seminar days, or not the really big lecture classes. A benefit also, which I think it's actually a super great benefit for large universities, is that honor college students can register for classes first. One of the things that happens at large universities is that registration for classes can be a little bit stressful, because again, there's only so many spots per class, and you want to be able to get the class progression that is supposed to be for your major. So having the advantage of registering first would be great. Some honors colleges also offer some really cool social events or outings, or special lectures. So all of that information will be within the school's website. They usually will have a whole separate website with a whole separate staff for that honors college as well. And as far as how to evaluate it, it's the same thing about, finding out what the student's preference is. Going in with the mindset that nothing's perfect. I mean, there's not going to be any place that is going to be, perfect, especially if it's like a dorm or things like that. But that's one of the unfortunate pieces about not being able to go in person to lots of schools. But by all means, if you've got it down to 2 or 3 schools that you're considering, and you need to make a decision and commit to a school by May 1st, then try to visit as much as you possibly can, if that's possible for you.
Sounds good. Thank you. I have another question from Joy. With the pandemic, it's been harder to do community service hours. Is there a number of hours students should aim for?
Okay, so that's kind of like a two-part question. Part of it, a lot of high schools will require a certain number of hours for their graduation requirement. That doesn't really have anything to do. Colleges are now going to have a specific number of required hours. What colleges want to see is a deep commitment from the student to a particular cause, or a demonstration that the student really wants to serve their community. There's lots of ways of doing that. There is a great resource. It's a website called volunteercrowd.com. They have some listing of opportunities, of service opportunities, and it also helps the student kind of keep track of the number of hours that they are putting in. And, I think students can be creative as well, especially with the pandemic. Other opportunities that might have been there, where a student can go in and help coach a team, or some activities that were canceled, doesn't mean that the student should say, well, I can't do anything in my community. For example, I have a student in Ohio who, during the pandemic, he, and at the beginning part of the pandemic especially, but he organized a couple of buddies to go collect donations of food for their local food bank. And within their neighborhood, they would put out newsletters, and they would say, hey, if you have anything to donate on such and such a Saturday, leave it on your porch and we'll come by and get it. It's been an endeavor that has grown for him and his friends, and it's been really amazing. And it was just something that they did on their own. Same thing for students, for especially juniors for this summer. If you love to teach other students or younger students a particular subject, you could organize sort of a tutoring service in your neighborhood, or you can volunteer to do some yard work for elderly people within your neighborhood that may not be able to do. So all of those things will count. A student shouldn't feel that they have to do something really, really formal. As long as they can do it in a way that they are getting enjoyment, they're learning something from it, and that they're really genuinely serving others. That's something that absolutely, by all means, you can list it in your college application. But do it because be a better person and helps you to grow, not putting in your college application.
Very important advice. I have actually some logistic questions. So, for
Yes.
juniors, I think it's a really great idea for them to work on their college applications over summer. And my question is, are these essay prompts, do they stay the same throughout the year? Like common application prompt or UC applications? Or do they change? Or when are they available?
So they have been staying the same over the last few years. Common App did add one additional prompt, or actually they reworded one prompt, but they announced that early enough specifically for what you're saying, so that juniors can get a head start and working on their essays during the summer. You wouldn't believe how much work it would be for a student that leaves all of that essay writing for the fall of their senior year. It can just take a lot of the fun out of the whole process, as I was mentioning last week. The University of California system also has the same age prompts that you can choose from. And so one of the things that I would say is you can go either to the school website or start your commonapp.org account, and then you can see what the essay prompts would be, with the caveat that officially it is August 1st when you can complete and start submitting the common application. So colleges do have until August 1st to release what their prompts will be. Usually when it happens, it's really just a handful of schools that release it late. So most of them, or not late, but August 1st, most of them will let the students know ahead of time what it is they have to write. But a good way to prepare for that is if the student focuses on the common application personal statement first, and then write an essay about what is it that you want to study and why. Kind of start exploring that. Another good thing to write about, even without having a prompt, because then you can just edit it later, but it's about, what kind of community member do you want once you're into a school? Meaning, what are the things that you can offer? Or what are the extracurricular interests that you're into, and how would that help make a college community better? So if you start with that writing, then you can just start, pulling from that and editing once you have the specific prompt.
I think those are great questions to consider, whether they have to write that or not, because they're going to spend 4 years at this school. So I'm hoping that as students prepare for their essays, they're really thinking more deeply about what they want to get out of the college experience.
Exactly. And yeah, not only in the ways of how they want to personally grow, but what do they want to share um, with their classmates as well. And for a student, for example, who is a singer and really enjoys, start putting down on paper, why is it that music is important to you? How does it help you share that joy with other people? And the more you could start at least thinking about those things, but preferably writing them down, the easier the process will be when you actually have to sit down and write those supplemental essays.
Sounds good. I have one more question about testing. Does it matter when they take the SAT? Because the latest trend that I've seen is that students are taking math earlier. There are a lot of freshmen
Mm-hmm.
taking Algebra 2, for example.
Yep.
So if their verbal skills are pretty high, in theory, they could take
Mm-hmm.
the SAT in sophomore year. So can they use that if they score high enough?
Yeah, they can certainly use that score. I always say to students, let's find a balance between preparing and testing well, and having it do it at a time in your school calendar where you're not going to be super stressed. This is important, particularly for athletes. If you're a football player or a soccer player or a athlete, fall season athlete, and try to take that test well before your season begins. It's just going to be much more manageable. But yes, you can take it. So the SAT, you can prepare for just like the ACT. There are some portions on the ACT that are content-based, meaning that if you take it too soon, you haven't really learned those topics yet. But and there's ways to prepare on your own as well. A really good resource for preparing for a test, for the SAT particularly, is Khan Academy. That is KHAN Academy, ACADEMY.com. And they have a whole slew of resources where the student can practice on their own. And of course, there's also some great test prep companies and tutors out there as well if the student needs an extra level of support there as well.
So besides preparing for their college application essays, do you have any recommendations for juniors as to how they can spend their summer before their senior year?
Mm-hmm. Yes, yeah. Well, writing. One of the things that I really try to do with my students is try to finish up 90% of the work before their senior year begins. and it just makes the whole process easier. But well, doing college visits, it's a great way to spend some time in the summer. But if the college visits in person are not available, then do spend some time doing some of the virtual visits so that you can feel really, really good about the list of schools that you're applying to. By that time, by the time you're submitting applications, you should know exactly what majors they offer, what are the things that are a good fit for you, if they have any special programs that you can take advantage of, that kind of thing. And as far as, especially for the juniors, I would say if you know what major you'd like to pursue or what career you would like to pursue, the summer before your senior year begins is a great way to get into that a little bit deeper. For example, if you are considering architecture, if there is a program within a college that you can go to for a week or two to really learn about what is architecture, what does it all take. Or for a student that is considering medical school, for example, there's some great programs out there for the summer. They'll vary. Some can be very expensive. Try to avoid those if you can. But for the experiences where you can be on campus and lots of hands-on, some of them are certainly worth it. And the other ones might be just like a 1 week. For the Southern California students, all of the schools in Southern California have some great programs that are not very expensive, and you can spend a week learning more about your desired career. So that's a great way for you to kind of go into college thinking, okay, I've got a pretty good plan already. And then consequently, it's a demonstration in your applications that you are serious about that.
I think that's a great recommendation. Not the fact that, they find out about the college and the career, and also they find out that they may not like what they thought they were going to do. I think that's even more important, that they figured that out earlier on before investing in 4 years majoring in something that they're not going to enjoy.
And if my youngest daughter is watching this video at some point, she'll remember that she did an architecture program. It was 2 weeks, and she came back and she said, nope, don't want to study architecture. I thought, okay, at least we know that now. And another really good way to spend your summer before you go off to college, spend time with your family and your friends, sure. Especially with your family. Once the following summer after that, getting ready to go to college, and just it'll just be different. So spend some good family time.
I think that's a great advice. We have another question from Patricia. What do you tell students who have no idea what their career paths are, where to start navigating? I'm hearing that some schools frown upon undecided, undeclared majors. Thank you.
Okay, so first of all, it's okay to not know exactly what you want to do. We can't expect 16 and 17-year-olds to know, but they should know at least what their strengths are. What are the things that they really enjoy doing? And that's one of the reasons why I love the work that I do, is because I do get to spend a lot of time with students self-reflecting on what are their strengths, and then we explore careers as to, you don't have to be just a lawyer, a doctor, or an engineer. There's so many different options there as well. But important, I think, for the student to really think about, if I'm a really creative person, for example, what are the things that I could be using those skills for? Lots of ways to learn a bit about that. There's assessments that you can take online, or you can spend some time in the summer maybe interviewing people in different professions and saying, okay, what is it that you like about your career or not? which, by the way, is also an activity that you can put in your college application, where you can say, hey, I spent a month or every other 2 times a week, I would have a conversation with somebody in a different profession to learn more about what their work is. So that's lots of ways to try to explore that. There are some colleges that say to students, you know what, you don't have to declare a major until the end of your sophomore year. So we want to give you a chance to explore different avenues. The reality, going back, if you remember, I talked about, so the financial piece, college is expensive, so you want to try to avoid having to go for a fifth year of college to finish out a major. So the better that you can plan ahead, the earlier you can plan ahead, the better. Then on the other hand, let's say for some of the University of California majors, where they're called impacted, it means that if a student doesn't get into that particular major as a freshman, it can be very difficult to transfer into that major because there's only so many spots available. So, I'm not quite sure that necessarily frowning upon a student that comes in undecided. I don't know any school that is going to specifically say that. They will have avenues for students to explore, but it also depends on the school. Yeah.
Sounds good. And also, I realized that, bachelor's degree is not the end all. I've seen a lot of people who
Yeah.
major in one thing and then go and do something else for their master's program as well.
Yeah, that is true. Which is one of the beauties of the smaller liberal arts colleges, for example, where the main goal there is to have students that can become really good critical thinkers and really awesome writers and very strong readers and really kind of like lifelong learners. Because you're right, you may decide that after you get a major in history, for example, that then you want to go be a vet or a doctor. And there's, yes, the higher education pathway can go for a long time.
True. All right, we're approaching about 45-minute mark.
Okay.
So if you have any questions, please put them in the comment section, but I'm gonna try to wrap up today's session. I want to thank you, Cathy, once again for joining us today and
My
giving us
pleasure.
all these tips and sharing your knowledge with us. I also really appreciate the fact that you are talking to us from the parent perspective and how we can help our children navigate through this complicated college admissions process. But also keeping in mind that, we're helping them to prepare for the life, not just a college. And that reminder is so good for us to remember.
Yes, and
Thank
it's
you
it's
once
okay
again.
for us to remind the students that, hey, this is your process. Um, Talking back at the mindset that we don't, as parents, don't want to sort of hammer over their head, college, 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 because as teenagers, and it's just normal, they're going to say, hey, I'm done talking about this. So for families to be strategic about having the mindset that this is going to be fun, and having the mindset that lots of different things are available, I think will definitely help, or prevent you teenagers from saying, "Oh, I'm done talking about it." I've seen it happen.
That's true. And for my part, I've gone through this with my first child. And what I've learned is this one area I'm going to outsource.
Yeah.
So I'll be calling you.
Yeah, absolutely. You know what? And as I said sort of early, I kind of got into this career also because I realized I made some mistakes as a parent on my own. But sometimes it's just great to have that buffer so that the student is going through that process without sort of feeling that their parents are nagging too much. Or I think as an independent counselor, I can remind students really well, and I can guide them through the process. A couple times I have to resort to nagging, um, but not very often. Yeah, if we follow the process, it works well.
Yeah, I'm a firm believer that the more adult advocates that I can have for my children, the better it is. Just surround them with more love.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely.
All
Yeah.
right, sounds good. Thank you so much, Kathy. And thank you
Well,
for joining us today. I hope you learned a lot because I sure did. And if you have other questions later on, please put them in the comment section. And I know Kathy's inside our group and she's so helpful and resourceful, and I'm sure she'll give you some answers. If not, I'll
yes,
ask her for you.
yes,
So,
yes. And if families want to reach me, www.fitforhighered.com. The information as well there, and that can reach me through there.
sounds good. Thank you so much. Until next time,
Okay.
have a great week, and we'll see you guys again
Okay.
soon. Bye.